How long ago was that accident and what happened?
12 years ago. 12 years ago. So we used to ride. I grew up on motorcycles. I always kid around. Our first date, he goes, "Oh, I ride a motorcycle." And I'm like, "Oh, I do too." And he goes, "No, you don't. Let me see do you have a Class M1 license?" And I'm like, "I sure do." He's like, "Let me see your license." He goes, "Wow, you do." He goes, "Well, do you have a gun?" And I'm like, "I'm from Texas. Of course I have a gun." And he goes,
Is the Pope Catholic?
he's like, "Oh, okay. I think that was it. That was why he even went out on a second date with me, because I rode a bike and had a gun."
Had nothing to do with your energy or how you look or anything like that. It was a gun and a motorcycle?
Yeah, that
I like
was
the way this
it.
guy operates.
That's
pretty
it.
badass. That's hilarious.
So that's what we did for fun. Like, we rode on the weekend. Was our time together. And I was coming home from work, actually, on my way home to meet him on my motorcycle. And Ventura Boulevard, I don't know if you've ever been to LA, but it's a pretty busy boulevard. But I was cruising along about 21 miles an hour, because when you crash a bike, the speedometer stops on that. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that until I actually got hit, but I had an SUV shoot out of a parking lot, and they T-boned me, and I went flying about 30 feet and was just sliding across the asphalt. And so when I came to a stop, before we started recording, or maybe not, maybe we were already recording, we were talking about work.
Yeah.
And how you worked so hard. You worked your way through college, and I have worked since I was 13, and my default has always been like, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
Well, when I'm laying in the middle of the road, I look down at my leg, and it's crumbled into pieces. I mean, just broken into pieces. And one of the first thoughts I had was, well, this sucks. I might have to train clients on crutches for a while. Like, I wasn't thinking, oh, I didn't know my femoral artery was severed, but it was severed. Blood everywhere, leg. I was afraid to let go of my
Were you
leg.
in massive pain?
Oh my God. The
Or
pain.
did you go into shock really fast?
Oh, no. I was screaming out some cuss words, and then I was thinking, ooh, my Methodist mama would not be proud of me right now. Like, I had that thought. And then I was like screaming out. I was afraid to try to reach into my backpack for my phone, because I was afraid that my leg would fall off if I let go of my leg.
My God.
And I was holding on to my leg, and I was screaming, "Call 911." Then I was shouting out my husband's phone number, and he was at home, and he said that his phone just started ringing over and over, and he wasn't answering it, and it kept ringing and ringing, and he finally answered it. And I was about 2 miles from home. So the paramedics were down the street at a Coffee Bean. So they had taken off running towards me before they even got the call. They heard the accident and saw, and were running towards me. It was like everything was lined up. I had this guardian angel, this guy that ran over. He pulled off his belt, made a tourniquet on my leg. He saved my life, because I could have bled out right there. My husband showed up. They got me loaded up in the back of the ambulance, and I just remember squeezing this paramedic's leg like so hard, because I was in so much pain, squeezing his leg, and I was looking at him, and I was trying to make eye contact. You know, when you look at somebody like, am I going to be okay? Are we good?
Right.
Like, he would not make eye contact with me.
You're looking for the knowing nod.
And
like,
anything, like,
yeah,
tell me,
reassure
am I?
me.
And I was like, oh, he's not even looking at me. Does this mean I'm dying? Like, and then I was wishing that I would just die, because it was so painful. And they couldn't give me morphine. They start, and this is how like insane. I was going in shock at this point. They started trying to cut my jacket off, and it was a brand new hot pink Lululemon jacket. And I'm like, no, don't cut my jacket. I'll take it off. And I'm like strapped to the gurney, your head strapped down. I'm trying to take my jacket off. I had no idea the whole back of my jacket was shredded. And they're just not saying a word, like letting me try to do my thing. And they start trying to put the IV in. And I said, wait, what are you giving me? Being a control freak, like, what? But I'm glad I did, because they were about to give me morphine, and I go into anaphylactic shock when I have morphine. So thank God I wasn't knocked
You're
out.
allergic to morphine? Mm-hmm. Wow, is that common?
I found out that I was when I was having a cesarean with my youngest daughter and started going into anaphylactic shock right there on the operating table. And so that's how I knew. But yeah, so they couldn't administer any medication, no pain medication, until I got to the hospital, and my organs, everything, it was just shutting down. I'd lost so much blood and they couldn't control my pain. And so they had to put me in induced coma. And oh my gosh, the room of the hospital was insane. It was filled with cops. Because the news travels fast in the brotherhood, sisterhood of the police force, and so it was filled with cops. They thought maybe I was a cop that had gone down. They didn't know who was there. And my husband was just hysterical, crying hysterically back and forth, and I'd never seen him like that. He's a first responder. He's a big, tough guy.
So
I had never seen him cry.
You don't really even know how bad this is till you see everyone starting to react?
I had no idea. And I told him later, like months later, when I was out of the hospital, I was like, you were crying you were hysterical. And he said, you didn't see what I could see. He said, you had the surgeon reaching into your leg, trying to grab your femoral artery, and he'd pull it out to grab, and it would snap back into your leg. And he said there was just blood everywhere. He goes, you didn't see what I saw. And I was like, oh. And I'm like, sorry. Like, I didn't really put myself into his position of what he went through. We were so focused on me just trying to live through this that it wasn't until months after I was out of the hospital was I able to wrap my mind around what he was going through. I mean, he really had to show up as like my hero, but I had told him, screamed across the room, honey, get over here. I need you to be strong for me. And really, because I'm like, I think I might be dying, and I need to know he's going to be okay and going to be able to take care of our kids. And he came over and held my hand, and that was the last thing I remember before they put me in induced coma.